mentioned by artists themselves or even galleries, is that the pool of collectors that we have, especially in Penang, probably not as serious in KL, but in Penang especially, that the pool is very small. And we always talk about how to grow that pool of collectors. How does technology, in your opinion, change in the way that collectors collect artwork? And are we behind in that sense? And are there some of the things that we can pick up to try to grow this pool of collectors? Maybe we kind of can share some of this.
Perhaps before I talk about technology, back to what you were asking, I think they are related. We need to talk about art. We need to talk and talk and talk about art. Recently, I'm quite passionate about this topic. Why is Western art so sought after, so looked up upon? It's because they talk incessantly about their art. So all of us, whether you're an artist, a curator, a collector, anyone who has interest in art, you should just talk about art. And you never know where the next you will inspire someone to. Years ago, I curated a show, and I had a client who wanted to sign some documents. And he said, "Hey, why don't we come to the space that the show was on?" And the husband and wife came, we were signing away, and then I showed the wife a catalog from the show, and she was looking at it, she was very interested, and told, "Abi, can I get a copy of this? These are millionaires. Can I get a copy of this?" The husband snapped at her and said that, "Why do you want that for? You don't appreciate art." I said, "No, you can have the catalog." So after they signed the documents, I took them around the gallery. That afternoon, they purchased 80,000 worth of art. So you never know. When you talk about art, you attract people. I gave a sharing a talk with a bunch of CEOs. They have their private club, and I did that and talked about art collection. And a year later, a couple who attended that talk came up to me and said, he says that since hearing my talk, in the last year he has spent 2 million on art. But what encourages me most, or gives me the most delight, is when I get someone to buy their first piece of art, especially young collector. I go so far as to underwrite or sponsor or give them a loan to buy art. Buy your first piece of art. I'll pay for it first. Easy payment scheme. Pay me back when you can. Right? So talk about art. Do such things, and the pool of collectors will increase. Technology. I don't quite know about technology. I do buy art just based on image on WhatsApp from KL galleries, because I trust the gallery. Because I know the artists that represented, so I'm comfortable enough to buy art off WhatsApp or an email. That's possible, but first because I've invested some time in knowing the art. Technology-wise, there may be many platforms. There are people who started various websites and everything in Malaysia. They have not been very successful. Recently, a group of us were talking about starting an art platform in the cyberspace, internet space, and we want to do it seriously. So we want to spend the money employing people full-time for at least 5 years. We want to be able to find money to do that, and we want to educate from artists. We want to connect photographers who photograph art, writers that write about art, the whole ecosystem, and hopefully we can make something out of that. So technology is there for us to exploit. As an art collector, I recently discovered on Wix.com, Wix.com. These are templates for you to make your website, and it takes some getting used to, but it's not difficult. And now you can do it private, you can do it public. Set up my own website, having the art we collect, stored digitally on the website. Getting photographers to take photos, publication quality photos of the art that I collect. So all this will contribute, and technology is there for you to explore. Try that.
I think for me, when it comes to technology is basically social media. I'm a self-professed Insta slut, right? I use Instagram quite a bit. Pros and cons. I do think that Instagram has actually, I use it for two reasons. One is I do follow an international art scene quite a bit, whether it's an international, the museums, the galleries, artists, just to sort of see what's happening in the world. And you can sometimes get a sense of what's happening in Europe or what's happening in the States, even in Southeast Asia. So that's one thing I use it for. And the other thing is also to sort of communicate the projects that I work on, or the people I work with, or the artists that I work with in Malaysia. And it's not only about the end product, right? I think with a lot of art, what a lot of people don't get access to is the process of the artist, is the process of doing the work, which I think is terribly exciting, right? When the final work comes in, sometimes you're like, okay, that's done, right? But it's the process. So I do use it to try and sort of communicate with how artists work, what they think of, because then we share a lot more about what art and an artist is, not just the end product. So I do think technology has allowed us all this, but we also get into a bit of a con in the sense that we are seeing too many images, right? The way we go through Facebook, the way we go through Instagram, sometimes we are scrolling but not looking, seeing but not thinking. So there is a pro and con. So I think whoever sort of uses it will have to be also quite calculated with how we use technology.
So like the international auction house do leverage on technology to reach out to more collectors in that way. Have you looked into that as a galleries, and you mentioned that you also have an interest in starting out an auction house?
The international auction houses, they have long started years ago doing online auction. The way they do it, they have many different approaches. One of which is that they have one kind of blind auction, which is something like eBay. Like you put it in your bid, and at the end of a particular period, they will just announce who's the winner, who's the successful bidder, or stuff like that. On the other hand, they also have real auctions happening within the sales room, and at the same time, they accept online bids. So the bidders can pre-register themselves online, and they can go online at a particular time to go like real time with the actual auction, and they put in a bid and see if they can win that. These are some of the things that you can think of. And if you care to explore apps, you may find out something about Saatchi Online, which is a very interesting app. They utilize the technology called virtual reality. It should be called augmented reality. That you just select the artworks that you like in the app, and you can choose a function on which you can lift your camera out and just point at the wall in your house and see how that piece of artwork looks like in your house or in your office. So that's pretty interesting. However, for this question, I actually have done some research, and I went through this Hiscox report from London. They calculated from their captured art transactions in the year of 2016, and only about 8% of art transactions across the world happen online. And also, people tend not to spend a lot of money when they buy online. Majority of them, about 70 or 80% of them, only spend less than $5,000 on any single piece of artwork that they buy from whichever online platform you're talking about. Because apart from Saatchi Online, you have got Artnet, you have got Artsy.com, and everyone else is selling things online. So it provides different perspectives to this question, because on one hand you can say that the potential is great, it is huge that we can still explore. On the other hand, I also would like to always remind people that there is this psychological barrier that people cannot go over, they cannot go beyond when they buy things online. You tend not to buy a house online, you know what I mean? It's pretty tough to make that decision if you don't see the real thing. So coming back to Malaysia, what we always encourage people to discern when it comes to the utilization of technology in promoting your own art is that, especially for the artists, I would personally say, as a collector, it is not fun to see your process. Because, well, I should correct myself, it is fun to see your process on the Instagram on daily basis, but it's no longer fun for me to buy that work because I already know how it's made. You know, sometimes. So you may need to rethink whether you want to expose every single magic that you put into your piece of work. Say, for example, I don't think David Copperfield, in order to encourage people to go to his show, he started a magic class next door and start teaching people how to do it. And I think that is something that you need to think about, whether you want to tell people how you do it. The way you tell people, do you want to demo every single step? I guess majority of people don't want to do that. And when you show your artworks online, you have to ask yourself, am I showing the entire series, the entire body of works? Am I able to attract people's attention by just putting them on Instagram or some other social media? Or does this help people to come into my gallery or my studio to look at things? So you need to ask yourself how you tease them, how you get them to be interested, but not by saying that, oh, I've seen everything on Instagram, there's nothing new that I don't need to go to the show anymore. So that's the small little tricks that you need to consider.
I think I have a different opinion on that.
I have a different take from what Sophia just said about process. I love to see process, and I'm more likely to buy the artist's work once I know the process and I see the process. So if I stand beside Chong Wen Fat and see him paint the whole painting, the likelihood of me buying that is much higher than not.
And I know how to sell to you in future.
Yes. So when you sell to me, it's good that you have the artist's preparatory work, the cartoons that they draw, the sketches that they, what inspired them, and I want to own them all.
In terms of technology, I think social media is definitely really helpful in the art scene. For example, to promote an exhibition, it would really help if somebody posting the pictures that they took from the exhibition, or showcasing an artist's artwork. For example, this is from my own experience. I recently posted some of my collage artwork on my Instagram, and some of my friends approached me and asking me how are you going to frame it, or then I invited them to come and see in my gallery. I think it works really well in terms of promoting artworks.
Perhaps then it's up to the artist to then decide what kind of collector they would like to target and all that. Yeah. So I'm going to open to the floor soon, but perhaps just one final question. How do we then, perhaps not so much how, but what are some of the advice you have to encourage young buyers? Because it's quite intimidating sometimes to look at something and to purchase it off the wall just like that without, because you want to encourage that buying and collecting for interest and passion's sake, but because of the value of it and of course the disposable income that we have in our country. So maybe you can share some advice of how do we then take that extra step. Mikhail, would you like to start?
Open your eyes, train your eyes. You may not be able to afford the art from the West, but look at them. See what's out there. Now, travel physically, travel in the cyberspace. Right? Go to museums. Now the nearest good one, go to Singapore. Many of the artists' artwork on their wall in the National Gallery or in sand are available artists here surrounding you. All right? One good thing about going to see all this, going to museums, art galleries, is that you will then know what is perceived objectively as good art, especially in museums. Then train your eyes, and you may not like them, that's fine, because subjectively you have your own liking. Right? But at least you know what objectively is seen as good art. Then you will train your eyes enough to be able to recognize what is good art objectively and what is the art that you like subjectively. And that makes a good collection. Right? So see the world, you really, really need to train your eyes. Some collectors grow out of the collection. Right? They don't like the initial works that they buy anymore. But again, I'm a hoarder, so I still like the first piece of art that I bought. But people do go out of the collection. That's where secondary market becomes very important. In recent years, it's been developed. So that part of the infrastructure is important because people must need an avenue to resell. Then only they can buy more. So.
Again, I think for me it's a more practical in the sense that the first work I bought because I liked it and I could afford it. That was just it, right? And then subsequent when I saw the next work and I had a bit more disposable income, I bought it again. So I think, and as I bought more, at first I bought from the heart, I liked, right? Then I started questioning about what I was buying, so I met the artist, I spoke to the artist. Suddenly the 2D work had a lot more depth upon speaking to the artist. Then you're willing to put out a bit more, because then you know what more is behind the work. And I think the rest of it just flowed naturally because I kept doing what I liked and what I enjoyed. Oh, I buy something, I put it in my house, and I feel happy. But I think again, as the head starts to kick in, then you will ask the question, objective versus subjective. Hey, this was something I saw in the Singapore Museum, or I think I saw this artist here. Then you start joining the dots. Then you've got a nice balance of left brain and right brain. Then I think you really start to enjoy the arts.
I think I agree with Lee Kai on that part of getting the young collectors to train your eyes by seeing a lot of things, seeing a lot of art shows. One of the ways that you can do, you can adopt, which is very cheap, is to go online. Just search for Google Art. And if you are aware, Google Art has got a lot of museum exhibitions online. And they are like virtual tour. You can see the space and the video and the statements and so on and so forth. They have got important museums of all around the world to sort of deposit the visual tour with them in Google Art. So even even the Singapore Art Museum has got themselves into it. And that's how I viewed the entire exhibition on the current show of Signature Art Prize shortlisted artist works. So it's amazing. These days you don't have to spend so much money to go around. Of course, if you can, why not? Because you will get to enjoy the scene, you get to know the people, talk to the artist, talk to the curator and so on, enjoy the party a little bit, and you feel the perks of becoming a collector too. On the other hand, I also would like to urge people to think about things that you really like. Don't think so much about the return, because apart from financial return, you might as well look at the life return. Things that you gain out of owning that piece of artwork. For example, small little pleasures, and you get to show off to people a little bit. And that's part of the reason sometimes we buy things. Apart from that, yeah, well, we all have to admit that, yeah. So, isn't it? And sometimes collectors need to also put down some kind of barrier in your mind that you can actually start from somewhere. One very good example this collector from Japan always goes around the world to talk to everyone else. He gets invited into Basel and all that to speak to people about collecting.